back once again, Senior Basketball Analyst, four stringer again, flying solo. And we're here talking about Gilbert Arenas. And really, the reason that we're doing this is because this is a man that has ideas and he expressed them. And it's always great to, this is what discussion is all about. And this is what creating some content that is worth someone consuming is about. You know, there's a controversy going around in hip hop, so to speak. Really, it's just a rap controversy, but it's this Drake and Meek Mill thing, and really at the heart of this is, and what started is Meek Mill says, "Well, Drake don't write his own lyrics," and if you've delved into this at all, you've seen that some DJs that work with Drake have released what are called reference tracks. And these reference tracks have the man that Meek is saying is Drake's ghostwriter, a guy named Quentin, I think his name is Quentin Miller, but it doesn't matter what his name is. He is rhyming over these tracks, and then these songs become Drake songs later. And here's the thing. So that means he's not even just not writing this stuff. Someone else has to rap it and even show him how to rap it. And then Drake basically, like an actor, which is what he is, then recites it. And there's been a lot of debate about this. And I heard guys like Ed Lover, who's been he was a rapper a long time ago and has been a rap, has hosted rap shows, TV shows, radio. Famously, he was UMTV Raps host with Dr. Dre, not that Dr. Dre, the other Dr. Dre. And guys like Ed Lover are like, this is some whack shit, is really what it is. And it is. Now, the young cast would say, hey, man, nobody cares about authenticity. Nobody cares who's writing what. Nobody cares, right? Well, you know what? We should care. And you could say, call me an old man, call everybody an old man and say, get off my lawn, and all the jokes all you want. But the fact of the matter is, we're not them. And we're supposed to be authentic. And these are supposed to be our ideas. When I come on Senior Basketball Analyst, these are my ideas. And when I'm talking about someone else's ideas, I tell you, this is what they think. What do we need you for if you're just reciting some garbage, some nonsense someone else came up with? Why do I need to watch you on stage fumbling through your live performances? And if you watch Drake's live performances, they're terrible. Why do I need to watch you? Why isn't the dude that wrote this performing? If I was sitting in front of you saying a bunch of stuff that someone else came up with, then why not they sit here and tell you what they think? What's the point of me being here? So again, we're not them. So we're not supposed to be corporate bums, and we're not supposed to just be reciting other people, just like some Sports Center doofus that just says anything that the NFL or the NBA or MLB hands them and just repeats it. We're not supposed to be like them. So I have no patience for that. And I would suspect that if you come here to get this kind of content, you don't have much patience for it either, because you're not like them. So with all that said, let's get into this long-standing Kobe versus Michael debate. And I'm going to give you a little history on this. Michael Jordan basically is a huge part of what turned the NBA and what has turned basketball into a game that has some global recognition. If you go back if you go back 30 years, nobody outside of the United States, including Canadians, and basketball was invented by a Canadian, including Canadians, cared about basketball at all. When the Dream Team did their sweep through, and this was the one thing that David Stern did that I thought was actually a smart move. David Stern showed the world how exciting a game that basketball is. And you now have kids in other countries that grow up trying to play professional basketball. You didn't have that in the past. That was not a common thing. Guys that played basketball, they were guys that were either just abnormally tall, or they were guys that flamed out in soccer and other sports that people in other countries actually care about. because we all know, anybody that has access to the internet knows, outside of the United States, soccer is it, and everything else is just some nonsense that no one cares about. It's a joke, right? So, and in fact, they call it football, which I don't know why we call this game that doesn't have a whole lot to do with feet. I don't know why we call that football, but it's probably the same reason why we don't use the metric system, even though the system of units we use makes no sense. We'll see, there's 12 inches in a feet or a foot, and then it's 5,200 some odd feet in a mile. Like, why are we using that and not these nonsense units? Regardless, Michael Jordan was the beginning of making this a global game. He was a guy that not only had great ability as a basketball player, but he combined his greatness with the ability to, kind of do these dunks and make these spectacular plays that were not common back then. There were other guys that could do it, but they weren't as engaging a personality. They weren't necessarily as great a player as him. If you go and watch old clips of David Thompson is one of the highest jumping, flyingest, dunkingest guys in history. And he was really good, but he wasn't anywhere near as great as Michael Jordan. And also, too, there was also an audience for it because of the audience that the ABA created. That's the David Thompson, Dr. J, Daryl Dawkins game, right? That game kind of gave you this audience for people that wanted to see that type of basketball. And then Michael Jordan comes along and kind of puts his stamp on it. That's the short version of how this happened, right? And now, of course, a lot of you people listening have brand Jordan gear somewhere in your house. You wear it. We all know who Michael Jordan is, 6 championships, all of that, right? So Kobe Bryant comes along, and like a lot of players that grew up in that era, Allen Iverson talked about it at the NBA Players Association Awards. Allen Iverson talked about it when he received his award. Ray Allen talked about it. These guys grew up watching Jordan. And Jordan was the guy that made you want to play. And another guy who didn't talk about it that day, but we know, Dwayne Wade grew up in the South suburbs during the Jordan era. All of these guys, so many players were inspired by Jordan. Well, Kobe took that inspiration to another level. Kobe Bryant tries to speak like Jordan. He tries to walk like Jordan. He's calmed some of it down as he's gotten older and he's become more of his own man. But when he was a young cat, when he was a teenager, when he came into the NBA, he wanted you to think he was Jordan. And it was obvious in the way you would sit there and you would say, man, why is this dude walking like Mike, man? Well, it's so weird. It's a weird thing to do. And, the late in his career, Michael Jordan fadeaway, like Kobe Bryant, like copied that. And that was something that Jordan only did. Jordan started doing that like late in his career because he didn't have the explosion and the athletic ability that he had prior, right? So we ended up with this thing of where all of these, clown corporations, like, in ESPN in particular, started basically doing constant Kobe and Jordan comparisons, which are largely pointless. And that's why you don't really hear me doing a lot of that on this show. You can get that kind of stuff anywhere, and it's not really all of that productive. But since Gilbert Arenas did such a fantastic breakdown of LeBron James' game almost in isolation, I decided to talk about a few of the things that he said regarding Kobe and Mike. And, this is the Instagram post that this is the Instagram post, as you can see, that Gilbert Arenas made. And, he has a nice, Legends, picture. And I like this. This is kind of a cool picture, as though they're really standing next to each other. And the ones where Kobe and Mike are actually playing against each other aren't that really that cool because it's older Mike. And you see Mike's even got hair in these pictures. And then, he has a very, very long, and I talked about, I don't really think this is the proper format for what he was trying to do here or what he did here. But, again, he's speaking in internet language and the way that we disseminate ideas now in this new internet era. And, and then you see all the, different comments about it. And some people are questioning things like, Jordan had a 48-inch vertical leap. I don't think that's right. I actually don't think that's right either, because that's a 4-foot vertical leap. So I don't necessarily know that. That's really true. But regardless, what we do know is this, and what I think is really, really interesting about the things that Arenas is saying. Jordan did have this remarkable ability of taking off and getting a very high jump without slowing down. So not only would he jump high, he would get a long jump out of it too. And that's a very, very interesting, that's an interesting skill set. He could off a dead run get like these really explosive jumps without gathering really. He would just take off. And he was and that's why there's so many clips of him dunking on people, because it was hard to foul him and stop him from dunking the ball because he wouldn't gather. He would be going on a dead run and be moving so fast and then just kind of spring up and dunk the ball. That's not a normal skill set to have. So it was very interesting. That was an interesting observation, and he compared it to Russell Westbrook and the way Russell Westbrook just explodes all of a sudden. And Kobe doesn't have that to the same degree, and I thought that was interesting. And he makes a lot of statements about Kobe not being quite the athlete Jordan was. I would disagree with that. One, I think, and it at least appears that way, he definitely plays bigger than Jordan did, and I think that's because he is bigger. I think he's a bigger player than Jordan was, and I'll say this: he definitely is. He's definitely just bigger like this, but I'm pretty sure he's taller as well. So he's not gonna be as quick as Jordan was. I wouldn't expect that because he's bigger. So that would also mean that he probably wouldn't have that same type of fast twitch explosion that Mike had because Jordan was small. But the athleticism aside, one of the things that the really important statement that I think he made in this analysis is, well, if Kobe had these physical gifts, he would have been Jordan. Disagree. One, I think he overstates Kobe's basketball IQ. I don't think Kobe had anywhere near the basketball IQ Jordan did. And I say that because of the types of shots that he would take. Jordan, and this was when Jordan was a really young player playing on really bad teams, Jordan didn't take bad shots like this. Kobe takes a lot of really horrendous shots. And I think that's because he doesn't know how to get a better shot. Jordan got so many easy baskets by just playing good, smart basketball. Jordan was great at getting baskets on backdoor cuts. He was great at that. He was great. He was great at using his post game to get a layup and not using his post game to get a fadeaway. He would take fadeaways, but only when he got to certain spots that he was really efficient at. Jordan was great at getting to specific spots to get done what he had to get done. He had a very economical game. Kobe's game is only cosmetically similar to Jordan's. Where he would try to dunk like Jordan and he would try to shoot fadeaway like Jordan and he would walk. His gait was similar to Jordan. But in terms of the way that he got his production, it wasn't anything like the way that Jordan got his buckets. And they were playing in a similar offense for the same coach, and it still didn't look the same. And when you go anytime, look on ESPN Classic or NBA when they're doing hardwood classics in the middle of the day, record a couple of those games, record and watch Jordan, and pay attention to the way he gets his baskets. It's not similar. It is not similar at all. When they would throw in the triple post offense, when they would run those options where they would throw it into the high post and they would run a pinch post, Jordan scored on stuff like that regularly scored on it. Kobe Bryant gets his buckets by catching and going one-on-one. And that's part of why his shooting percentage is so poor. That's part of why that's why he was inefficient. And that's also why Jordan would get 30. That's why Jordan would average 30 and shoot 50%. Because he was getting a lot of easy baskets in an era where they played far more defense. Far more defense. The defense that Jordan played against was the best defensive era in the history of basketball. The defense Kobe played against was not as bad as it is right now, but it was pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible. And still, Jordan was more efficient. And here's the thing where, again, Arenas fell down on this one and just missed it. It's the defense. Michael Jordan was the best defender at his position almost every season of his career. He's the best defender at his position. This is a guy that got so many easy baskets on run-out dunks because he was just stealing the ball and running away with it. Michael Jordan would go out and not only stop you, he'd get 30. He would stop his man. Kobe Bryant would make some efforts defensively. Sometimes they would put him on the all-defensive team because the people voting on that are don't know what they're talking about. But Kobe Bryant was never a transcendent defender. And he doesn't even talk about defense. It's not a thing he really cares about. Michael Jordan was a lockdown defender. And it was and the reason really that they were winning titles like that was because not only was he a lockdown defender, the man standing next to him, Scottie Pippen, was an even better defensive player than him. So I think that when you look at Michael Jordan's ability to slide his feet with his man, not let his man breathe, he wouldn't let his man even get a drive and kick. He wouldn't let his man breathe. He would take the ball off of him. He was also a very good help defender. Very good help defender. You see all the clips of him with the weak side blocks. He got a really famous one where Patrick Ewing turns, shoots the fadeaway, thinks he's got a Scott clean look, and all of a sudden Mike runs up alongside of him and just kind of goes over the top and swipes it away as he's trying to take off. Like, so he didn't even let Ewing if he didn't let Ewing get into his jump, he probably wouldn't have been a block, it would have been a foul. But he swiped it away as Ewing was taking off. He had tremendous timing, both offensively and defensively, but he was really special in his defensive timing. There really isn't a whole lot of comparison between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, other than they're both shooting guards. There really isn't a whole lot of comparison. Michael Jordan was a much better basketball player on both ends of the floor, but especially defensively. Defensively, there's literally they're not the same type of player. They're not the same type of player. And I think that there would be far fewer of these comparisons if Kobe didn't make all these efforts to cosmetically mimic Michael Jordan. I think that these comparisons wouldn't even take place. But I encourage you to read Gilbert Arenas' comments. And what I encourage you to do is, look, this is Senior Basketball Analyst, man. We get homework here. I encourage you, when you see a Hardwood Classics game, record it, try to sit down and watch it. Go online, get some of these old games and watch them. Watch Michael Jordan. Watch that era of basketball. Compare it to what Kobe has done in his career. Compare it to what's being done today. Give yourself these history lessons, because this is how you understand the context for what's going on today. You have to understand what happened previously. So I think what Gilbert Arenas did starting these conversations was really great. I admire that. And I think he had some really good ideas that were worth breaking down. So I brought it to you. So don't forget, there's been some comments on these videos, man. I appreciate you guys stepping out and commenting. Eventually, we're going to start doing shows on your comments and talk about and really have a back and forth conversation. I think that's very productive. We're going to be doing that in the future. We're also going to be, we've done the Power Forward show. The Small Forward show comes next. I'm really looking forward to that because I get to talk more about LeBron James in his natural position. We get to talk about Kawhi Leonard, an up-and-coming star. I probably will throw Draymond Green into the conversation. Hey, why not, right? But yeah, we have a lot of great content for you coming up. So I appreciate you supporting us, and make sure you come back to Senior Basketball Analyst for the basketball analysis that you crave. And you know that.
Suckers I'm all, they fall and crawl into the pit of purgatory. I go for glory. I'm taking inventory, counting all the